power of foods and the biochemical effects that they have in our bodies are incredibly miraculous. So while yes, there are going to be foods that contribute to feelings of anxiety, there are also going to be foods that can help calm, ground you, and really stabilize your mood, alleviating symptoms of anxiety. Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a clinical nutritionist, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the top 10 foods that if you struggle with anxiety would be great to include, or better yet, make these foods foundational staples of your diet moving forward. The first food, I suppose, is actually a liquid substance. It's the only one on here, and that is green tea. Now, I generally don't recommend that people that struggle with anxiety consume caffeine, but green tea is kind of an anomaly when it comes to its therapeutic properties. See, caffeine increases your levels of glutamate, which is our excitatory neurotransmitter, and decreases your levels of GABA, which is our inhibitory neurotransmitter that's responsible for making us feel chill. So normally, while having caffeine may contribute to those feelings of heightened anxiety, green tea contains an amino acid called L-theanine, and this amino acid is actually shown to increase levels of GABA. So ultimately, whether you're looking to reduce your caffeine consumption or try something different that's not necessarily going to contribute to those jitters, then I would recommend giving green tea a try, especially something like matcha, which has been shown to have higher levels of L-theanine in it. The second food on the list is fatty fish. This is because fatty fish contain omega-3 fats, which are incredibly important for brain health and have been shown in studies to reduce symptoms of anxiety. So focusing on increasing your consumption of fatty fish from things like salmon, mackerel, trout, herring, sardines, cod, bivalves, all of those things can be really helpful. Number 3 are eggs. Eggs are a great food not only for their blood sugar stability because they contain fat in addition to a little bit of protein. They're a great way to start off the day, but they also contain a lot of B vitamins that are very supportive of the nervous system. One of these being kind of a cousin of B vitamins called choline. Choline is used to make the most common fat in all cells, phosphatidylcholine, and is a key ingredient for the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which is essential for brain health and development. Choline concentrations have been negatively associated with anxiety symptoms, which is essentially another way of saying that those with higher concentrations of plasma cholines did not report anxiety symptoms, while those with lower did. Eggs are great because they're generally the highest dietary source of choline in most people's diets. Number 4 on the list are nuts. Nuts are generally high in magnesium. If you haven't watched my video on magnesium and its role in anxiety, then I highly suggest you check that out. Nuts like almonds, cashews, and Brazil nuts generally have pretty high levels of magnesium, and pistachios is a super cool nut because it not only contains magnesium, but it also contains really high levels of vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 is a cofactor along with magnesium for the synthesis of GABA. So how cool is it that in this one food, we're getting both of the cofactors that we need for a particular neurotransmitter synthesis? So nuts can be a great thing to include in your diet for these reasons. The next food on the list, number 5, is pumpkin seeds. So similarly to nuts, pumpkin seeds are fairly high in magnesium, but pumpkin seeds, in addition to magnesium, also contain a plant form of L-tryptophan. Tryptophan is a precursor to the neurotransmitter serotonin. So while we often think of serotonin as our feel-good, mood-boosting neurotransmitter, it's also really important for making us feel calm and at peace. So while we commonly think of things like turkey when it comes to high tryptophan foods, it can actually be helpful to get L-tryptophan in plant foods because of something called the tryptophan steal. This is essentially where other amino acids compete with tryptophan for transport across the blood-brain barrier and entry into the cells. So essentially, when we are consuming a plant form of tryptophan that doesn't have to compete with other amino acids, then we can actually be getting a higher concentration of tryptophan. Other plant foods that are high in tryptophan are mushrooms, asparagus, turnip greens, and spinach. This is another reason why the sixth food or food group on this list for reducing anxiety are leafy greens. Leafy greens like spinach contain magnesium, plant tryptophan, and vitamin B6. So they can be a triple whammy in terms of all of these factors that we just talked about that can help increase those levels of GABA in the brain. In addition to leafy greens, another great food category to focus on in terms of vegetables are root vegetables, which is number 7. So carbs and tryptophan have an interesting tandem relationship where carbs essentially help L-tryptophan cross that blood-brain barrier. So in order to get this benefit, but to not have your blood sugar spike drastically, which will ultimately lead to levels of anxiety, I really like to focus on root vegetables, or what are otherwise known as slow-burning carbohydrates. So examples of this would be things like sweet potatoes, carrots, parsnips, rutabaga, beets, etc. Most people won't be interested in exploring number 8, but if by chance you're someone with not only an open mind, but someone who likes or doesn't mind trying new foods, then you might be interested in number 8, which is organ meats. Now, before you cringe, organ meats are actually the most nutrient-dense food on the planet, and that is because they per ounce contain more nutrients than any other food. But they're not just on this list because they happen to be the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. They're on this list because they often contain a really great concentration of B vitamins as well that are really important for your nervous system. So for example, while the different B vitamins and their levels are going to vary in the various different organ meats, beef liver is incredibly high in vitamin B12, and one serving of liver actually meets your entire B12 needs for an entire week, which I cannot say about any other food. Chicken liver is higher in things like iron, which is super cool if you're someone who is anemic. But ultimately, these foods provide some very interesting nutritional properties and can really give you a nutrient boost, even if you're only willing to have these foods like once or twice a week. I'm actually gonna leave a link to a company below that makes really awesome products out of organ meats where you probably wouldn't even be able to realize that that's what you're eating. So they make things like sausages and liverwursts where they take a combination of different types of organ meats and combine them into a food that you can readily prepare or cook. And if you are interested in these properties, but you really don't think that the food is the version for you, then you can also take things like beef liver capsules as well. Going off of organ meats, the next food on the list that's really great for reducing anxiety is also considered offal. Offal is a term that refers to the discards or entrails of animal products that generally go to waste. So by utilizing these animal products, whether it's organ meats or collagen, which we're about to talk about, it's actually a very sustainable way to include animal products in your diet. So unless you live in more of a bubble than I do sometimes, which is probably pretty rare, you've likely heard of collagen or collagen peptides, collagen supplements, etc. There is a reason why collagen is so popular. It is really great for a variety of things, whether that's supporting your joint health and reducing pain. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the body, so it's great for things like hair, skin, and nails, but it also is really high in the amino acid L-glycine. And glycine has various beneficial properties, one of them being that it supports that intestinal integrity, so things like leaky gut or intestinal permeability. It can be great for helping healing that. But glycine is also great for mental health and reducing an overactive brain. Because of glycine's inhibition effect, which remember is that calming of neurotransmitters, some studies have shown it to have a very positive effect on mental conditions like OCD, schizophrenia, and is also believed to reduce panic attack frequency. Unfortunately, most of the muscle meats that most of us eat these days, like lean chicken breast or other lean meats, don't actually contain glycine or very much glycine at all. And so that's one of the reasons why having something like collagen in your diet can round out some of those amino acids and give you some of the benefits of L-glycine. The 10th and last food on the list that can be helpful for anxiety and reducing those anxiety symptoms are other protein sources. So we already talked about fish, but having other protein sources like chicken, turkey, beef, really variety is what we're after for here, because then we're gonna get a variety of amino acids, and amino acids are incredibly important for mental health and things like anxiety. And now I wanna just say that you may have noticed that the last 3 on this list were all animal products, and there's also fish, so 4 on the list total overall were animal-based products. If you're someone who is vegetarian or vegan and you're struggling with mental health, then leave me a comment below and let me know if you're interested in me doing a more in-depth video on some of the potential nutritional drawbacks that you may face when you're trying to improve your mental health on a vegetarian or vegan diet. I say this as someone who was actually a vegetarian most of her life and then was also a vegan for several years, so I completely get it. But if you are someone who's open to making some dietary changes and or including animal products in your diet, it could drastically improve or has the ability to improve your mental health. And while I am someone who likes to focus on inclusion over exclusion, which is why I led with this video, next week's video is going to be all about foods, or the top 10 foods that you may want to drastically decrease in your diet that may be contributing to those anxiety symptoms. So if that's something that you would like to know about, then hit the subscribe and notification bell so you'll know when that video is released. I'll see you in that one.